Hello, our friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family.
Hello there, welcome back.
So, guys, we're going to talk a little bit about the energetic changes that are underway and how it's affecting people. It seems like it's affecting people in different ways.
Oh my goodness, it's affecting those that are sensitive, and I think it's like an awakening kind of energy because maybe if you're not awake, you are becoming awake because you're so sensitive and you're looking around and you feel these different energies and you're not sure what's wrong, so you have to go on a search. And usually when you go on a search, that brings people to awakening. And then those of you who are already awake and you're like supercharged empaths and you're super sensitive, I've gotten a lot of messages from people that are just not sure what to do with these energies. They don't know what to do with themselves. So it's been very difficult for a lot of people.
Yeah, and everybody's handling it, differently because we're all at different stages, and our stages are not necessarily all going to look alike. This is one of the things we have to realize. This is not a one-size-fits-all universe.
Mm-mm.
It's not. It's just that simple. Anything and anyone that's trying to force you into conformity, to not being yourself, and not allowing you to develop at your own pace and speed, they're doing you a disservice. Because we're all unique. Everybody goes through these changes in a different way. It affects all of us completely differently. And, sometimes Cynthia and I will be on the same page, and other times not at all, and the two of us are together 24/7, 365, just about. I mean, we're probably not together for maybe an hour or two a week, literally.
Yeah, that's pretty true. We kind of do everything together and then some. We're kind of glued at the hip, but it's definitely wonderful to be like that, to have a partner like that. And a lot of people may or may not have that, but your uniqueness is the most important thing. So hopefully the ones with partners out there do appreciate your uniqueness, and hopefully you appreciate their uniqueness. So we're all just different and beautiful and wonderful in this world of exploration.
So, where we're going, when we go up into the higher densities, there's definitely an understanding of that uniqueness, an allowance for it. You won't find in 5D, for instance, one belief set that everybody has to embrace, a political ideology. Everything that you have grown up with, it's all just conditioning. It's complete conditioning. And even to the point where people will say, well, how should I worship God?
Mm-hmm.
Whatever feels good to you. And if that includes not worshiping at all, then so be it. That's okay. That's just a choice. That's just a choice. I remember reading in the Bible and, reading how, well, what's eternity going to look like? We're all going to be going Hosanna, Hosanna forever. That's a little dull.
Yeah.
That's a little boring. That's not creation.
No.
That's being a robot. That's being an automaton. That's not being a unique expression of self,
Right.
of source and self.
That's right.
They go together. They go together.
They most certainly do. And, once we discover that and we start to explore, things start to get interesting. And then we get these cosmic waves that come in, wave after wave, and these planetary alignments that create a whole nother magnification and put a whole new spin on things, which might change people's perspective, because the planets, what they do is their light reflects off of our bodies, and depending on where we're at, where we're born, what our star map looks like, you might have certain changes occur depending on which planet is kind of in control of your whole being when you're born, because everyone is born under a certain star system, under a certain planet. When these things happen, everything might change. So you might be seeing things from a whole nother lens and you just haven't caught up to that yet. You're just looking around. It's like, okay, nothing has changed, but why am I so squirrely? And that's probably because your perception has shifted in some way.
When these waves were hitting us, we were both getting exhausted at the same time, and we both looking at each other like, okay, want to lay down for a second? And we recognize a lot of it's upgrades. and also communication from our guides. So most of the time when we would go and take 10 minutes to lay down, messages would come clearly through. I'm at a little different place now, and I have shifted what I'm doing a little bit, and it's a significant bit because I'm trying to focus more on feeding the soul, which, for me has been more about, learning something that's fun. And so, been delving more into guitar and music in general, and even music theory, which again is a creative expression of self. And that's been just such a difference maker for me because I find that I'm at so much more peace, tremendous amount more peace. And I think I'm a little bit more silly and goofy and not so serious, which is not a bad thing in these times.
No, we all need some sense of humor. We all need that humor relief. And I do recommend people, actually seek out and find humor, find something to laugh about, because that releases chemicals inside of your body that are very, very healing. So that's one thing you can do. You can find something somewhere, some type of media, something that makes you laugh. Anything, just get laughing, and that's going to help break up those really tight, tense energies.
We got a message from Mithras, and many of you might be familiar with Mithras. Mithras is in many of the mythologies out there. He was actually a deity, quote unquote. That was one that a lot of the Roman military used to worship. And yet, also we see him as Mithras in the Persian mythos, and we also can equate him to Mithras in the Hindu pantheon as well. As, again, it actually means friend in Sanskrit. It's interesting because he came through 6 months ago, I want to say, 6 to 9 months ago. Cindy found herself channeling him, and he came through again today. Just to say, anybody that's interested, he would be willing to connect and, answer any questions, so to speak. He is most definitely what we would call, he would fit into that ancient astronaut category of beings. He is actually a fifth density being that can touch sixth, but also come down and visibly manifest on third density. But he is both a traveler, as Led Zeppelin said, of both time and space.
Oh, most definitely. Yeah, I mean, a lot of these things I don't know when these entities come to me, and it seems like they're coming more and more often and showing me their personality, and they want to speak through and get across that, they do want to help humanity. They do want to help with the ascension process, and they also want me to feel who they are, aside from all the stories that are written about them, because not a lot of these stories are really accurate. Most of these are just kind of like parables, if they're even true. So they just want to have someone who can channel their particular energy and get across what their beliefs are and be heard from on this 3D platform.
And while Cindy might be very, very unusual, in this time, but in the Golden Age, this is what everybody can do. Mm-hmm. In the Golden Age, we're all like this. So then all these things that seem so mysterious, they're not so mysterious. And when you talk about a being like Mithras, all you got to do is, I might mention to somebody, oh yeah, Mithras this, Mithras that. And then all they got to do is get into a little bit of a meditative state, and they could actually talk to him themselves. Just that easy. It's not going to be difficult when we're at that higher frequency, because our pineal glands will be fully functional, and so much of our DNA will come fully online that you want to know something, just reach out and touch them. Whether it's Yeshua, whether it's Set Isis, whether it's White Buffalo Calf Woman, Kuan Yin, Lakshmi, any of these beings, you could reach out and just have a conversation with them and find out for yourself. When I did a video on Mithras, maybe about 9 months ago or so, maybe it was a year now, Somebody put in a comment, that's not historically accurate. And my immediate comment was, yeah, because history isn't accurate.
Mm-hmm.
Again, history is his story. Whose story? It's the controller's story. They cover up everything that, is something that would lead to liberation and true understanding, and they distort it. They distorted the entire mission of Yeshua, who is known to most of the world as Jesus. And again, he wasn't called Jesus until we get into the 1530s. Nobody called him Jesus before that, and that's part of the misunderstanding of everything that's going on in our past, because we don't. If you expect to get true history from the controllers that want to keep you in the darkness, then that's basically like buying the Brooklyn Bridge or the Empire State Building or Statue of Liberty. You think that that person really had the ability to sell it to you? They're selling you a lot of something.
Mm-hmm. Most definitely, they're selling you stuff just to keep you in control. Just like we send our children off to school, and really all we're doing is sending them to a place that's going to teach them to be batteries for these businesses that are owned by the controllers, to make sure that their businesses can be ran properly so that they get all their money. And now we're in a place where we are just we're understanding this. We're starting to awaken to it. We're starting to awaken to new energies, new influences. Our DNA is coming online, and most definitely, especially when we see these cosmic rays come in, that there's going to be change, because light is all about information, and that information permeates through the human body, and it can change you in many different ways. So it's a good time to, I also tell people to meditate, do a lot of meditating, a lot of grounding, let the energies just sort of integrate nice and slow.
When we are like going to reach out and talk to some of these beings, so often, I'll say to Cindy, is so-and-so available? Yeah, they're meditating. And of course, we could reach out right away and we could meet with them and on that playing field. And, again, meditation is something that in the West, it really took until, we had Yogananda come over and some others after him to really bring just the whole idea of meditation to the West en masse. Now, when you look at the shamanic cultures around the world, the indigenous people, they knew that their best teacher was the earth itself, and they were very much in tune with the earth. And so they felt what was coming. They could sense what was coming. They knew the cycles. They knew when something was wrong or something was amiss. And, as we know, the U.S. Army basically utilized a lot of the natives to be their trackers. And one thing that was fascinating, too, was they found that when they put them in the typical Army haircut and, got them all their hair nice and trim and neat, they lost their ability. Mm-hmm. At least they lost some of their connectivity. And, again, that's kind of an interesting thing. But, our hairs, they're basically antenna. And they can have a big influence on our ability to draw in information. But the greatest teacher is right out there. It's Mother Nature. Let Mother Nature guide you. And the divine feminine is basically being suppressed on this planet, has been suppressed for thousands of years. It's been disrespected, and it's been put down and belittled. And the key to our escaping this paradigm is through bringing things back into balance and acknowledging the divine feminine, because that's the softer, gentler, kinder side of things. That's the nurturing side of things, where we can see very, very much we have inherited a warlike, very much Mars-dominant, aggressive society and culture. But, that's to be expected when, the ones that dominate this planet are the Ajiji and, serving the Anunnaki and the Draco, and they came here from Mars. So that's not, not a real big surprise.
Right. And, I think now as these energies are coming in and balance is coming forth, it's a really good time to ask yourself, where am I in all of this? Where is my energy sitting? Kind of take inventory of yourself. Are you still feeling aggressive and angry and pushy, and do you have a lot of internal anger? All of that's going to have to be processed out at some point. And that's another thing that you can do is just writing. Writing is another way to process information so that it gets out of your system, so you can find out, why am I feeling this way? What is going on with me? So this is all about change, and change can be a very beautiful thing as long as you're moving forward. This is really good.
Yeah, writing could be another form of channeling for sure. And we could get our own messages from Source, because we're all to get unique messages, because we're all unique expressions of Source. And so, everything is so incredibly distorted in our world where we really don't have a clear picture. But one of the most wisest sayings is, as above, so below. And so even in the higher realms, people can make mistakes, beings can make mistakes, make errors. And we tend to want to see like the creator of the universe, for instance, as being a being that couldn't possibly make an error, make a mistake. But again, it's as above, so below. And, there's that old song, I forget who the woman was that made it. The song was, "What if God was like one of us, just a slob like one of us?"
Love that. Yeah.
It's kind of interesting because again, it's written, "Ye are gods. Every single one of us is a universe unto ourselves, as above, so below." So here we are residing in the mind of God, in the actual physical body of a being, as well on a different level. There's so many little things that come to me constantly that I want to share with you guys, and some of them I forget for quite a while because there's new revelations that come through, and maybe I should keep a journal with me constantly. There was also a comment when we were talking about the elemental kingdom, and I know one of our good family members made the comment, so should we all go back to worshiping the sun? And it's interesting, because it takes me to a Star Trek episode where they were on a parallel world that was like in Roman times, and they were viewing it like people are worshiping the sun. How archaic. They're worshiping a big giant ball of gas. And I don't mean our politicians, but, the sun itself. And then in the end, they said, no, it was symbolic, just like the sun, S-O-N, of God. And then everything was like, okay, well, they're advanced beings then because they're worshiping Jesus, who wasn't known as Jesus until 1535. No, again, the sun is a representation of Source, because when we look at it in the bigger sense of things, the sun is like a neuron in a series of neurons that's basically very, very similar to, the neural network of a brain. When we look at the entirety of the universe out there, they look so similar. And in fact, they are, because what's the sun doing? Again, as Cindy was saying, it's relaying light. What's light? It's information. Mm-hmm. And what does light and information bring? It brings gnosis. It brings an inner knowing. So, when we are getting our light from the sun and it's bringing inner knowing, it's turning on our DNA, it's changing our literal consciousness, it's enlightening us. It's a clear representation of Source itself.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I was watching today on Mr. MBB, and somebody had gotten these auroras information along with electricity pulls, and they're like kind of talking with each other. Like the auroras would make noise and then the electric pulls would make noise. And I've always seen those auroras as beings. They're actual beings, and that's the way they choose to show themselves, to come to Earth and be around us, but not really be seen and be known. But they are beings, and I thought that was really interesting how the electricity itself, that too has a consciousness, and everything shares. Everything is connected in one way, shape, or form. And we'll be much better off when we start figuring that out about each other and be sensitive to one another and our different kinds of needs and our different desires, and be understanding if somebody has character defects, if there's something wrong with them, please understand that we don't know what they have been through. We have no idea. And that person probably needs more understanding than you could ever imagine if their character defects are pretty bad. So I think we need to bring back that understanding, nurturing type of way about things.
Absolutely. And again, that's that whole divine feminine side that has been, just put asunder. It's all about bringing back balance, and that's the message that we get from all these beautiful beings. They have respect for the divine feminine, and as we were, talking about, like, if we really look at Shiva as that which is not, which is not physical, that which is just pure consciousness. It's through Shakti, the divine feminine, that we have creation. And Shiva in the Vedic tradition has even stated that, when you pay homage to Vishnu, you're paying homage to me, because he's like me on the other side of the veil. And, again, this is all part of us. So, we don't really have to worship, quote unquote, anything. However, if you're asking, for help from benevolent beings that are in the higher realms, whether they are archangels, your own spirit guides, the devas, the beings that we would have called gods, quote unquote, it's just like in this world. If you walked up to a judge and you said, the judge is presiding over your case, and you said something like, "Hey, bud, just get to it." Is that going to go over too well? Or you walk up to a police officer in a belligerent way and make a statement that's, not showing any sort of respect, it's not going to go over well. And so, in the traditions, when we acknowledge these beings, we do so with a sense of respect and reverence, from the sense that these beings, have gone through perhaps way more incarnations than we have. They've been individuated souls, perhaps many countless eons longer. They've been where we are, and they understand. And the thing is, they don't really demand you to address them in a particular way. But at the same time, we should have respect. That's just common courtesy. But they do want to help. They're dying to help because they want to bring everybody up. It's just like climbing a ladder, and say you have 5 people tied leg to leg on a ladder. The one at the top can only go so high until the ones at the bottom have caught up. And it's like that in the densities and different dimensions as well. The higher those on the bottom can raise themselves, the higher those on the top can go. Mm-hmm. As above, so below.
As above, so below. So hopefully all of these things we talk about help you guys get through these changes in times. Definitely they are changing. The ether is changing. You're getting more information in, and you're going to be okay. Just process things as they come.
And thanks for your support, as always, on Ko-Fi and Patreon, and those that have been using medicinal foods as well. There's a link on every video. Stay prepared. Keep your heads high.